Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. The first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
So how much of a cut is the Joker giving you tonight?
He told me not to tell nobody about that. Did he tell you to tell people about that?
Good answer. I was just checking.
He said each one of our cuts is gonna be decided as we pull our names out of a hat, or somebody's names. I forget, I didn't catch the whole thing. Did you? I kinda just take jobs,
A little. You smell that?
I do smell something very not good.
Yeah, it's this weird, like, it's
Actually,
not like somebody
smells
farted.
like my old grandma's blessed damn soul's Gallic spaghetti with meatballs.
Yeah, it's like some sort of garlic thing.
There's a lot of protein in here as well.
Oh, they must be onto me. I even talk like this in my inner monologue. God damn it, Alfred.
I think the smell's coming behind us. Let's look over. Oh shit, it's Batman!
Oh shit. Fucking move with the reflexes from those recent gains I got from working out so hard.
I got him in our sight.
Goddamn garlic.
Hey, everybody, this is Wolfie. This is Superhero Stuff You Should Know. You should know it. You know how I know you should know it? Because you should know it. I'm here today with Andrew.
What's going on, everyone? We get to see everybody's lovely faces if you're tuning in to YouTube this go-around.
Oh, yeah.
How's it going?
And we're also here with Ben, as per usual, dropping the tutelage onto these...
too much about Batman. And
These
right
visuals are too much for me.
Video is fun.
Oh, my God.
Welcome to the new age, yes. So today...
And on today's... Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Me? Okay. And today's
By the way, if
episode,
there's
we're-
abrupt cuts in the YouTube video, audio's still
This
first,
is why.
everybody, so don't even worry about it. Go ahead.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Batman Cataclysm, and a story in which Gotham City is destroyed by a 7.6 magnitude earthquake or something. That's all I know about it. Ben, take it away.
Right. It's
Cataclysm.
a storyline from the 90s that led into No Man's Land, which we've talked about on the podcast before because that's what inspired or helped inspire The Dark Knight Rises. But there's an entire setup to it, an entire storyline even about the period of time that led Gotham into becoming a No Man's Land, and that is what our episode is about today. This also ties into the the sort of Batman and coronavirus time series that we've been doing. It started with Contagion, where we had Dustin Lee Massey, and afterwards was Batman Legacy with Zach Brown, and now directly after Batman has to deal with two potential pandemics. We have the Cataclysm, where there was an earthquake. So,
the Bat doesn't get a break.
No, he doesn't. It's basically 2020 as a Batman story is what this entire run in the 90s was, brought to us by Chuck Dixon. Very prophetic at the time. So before we start on Cataclysm, I thought I would dedicate this episode actually to a friend of mine named Emma McAllister. Emma and I met back when she was Mark McAllister many years ago, around the time of the release of The Dark Knight, and we both sort of bonded over the fact that we hated the redesigned Batman suit, as I've talked about on The Dark Knight Deep Dive, and we also kind of hated the makeup design on the Joker, even though Heath did an admirable job, and we agreed on that as well. We also both seem to have agreed that Mask of the Phantasm was the best Batman movie ever made, and I don't think she or I have really budged from that. And later on, she sort of hated the casting of Ben Affleck, but ended up warming up to it and really loved him in the role after seeing Batman vs. Superman. She passed away last fall, shortly after her birthday. And I've been wanting to find an episode to dedicate to her, but it took a while just because I wanted it to be a proper one that would actually fit her or something that we talked about. We'd already done the Mask of the Phantasm deep dive, and she wasn't that huge on the Nolan trilogy type stuff for me to feel like that would feel right. But then I remembered that I was telling her I was going over No Man's Land to prepare for The Dark Knight Rises. And she said, quote unquote, don't forget to read Cataclysm. So,
okay.
All right.
This is why this one's dedicated to her. So this is my way of saying, no, I didn't forget to read Cataclysm, and I didn't forget you. So thank you, Emma, for your friendship and talking about Batman fans, and hopefully you get to listen to this wherever you are and continue enjoying the podcast. So yeah, that is what this episode is dedicated, who this episode is dedicated to.
Wow. Okay.
This story feels a little prophetic because just a few weeks ago, Los Angeles was hit by an earthquake, not nearly as big as 7.6, but it seems somewhat timely to go over this right now. But even before that, I had plans for us to go over Cataclysm and No Man's Land, not just because we were going over it for The Dark Knight Rises, but also because in addition to the pandemic, there's an overall feeling of being cut off from resources, feeling of mass panic. Grocery stores are emptying, riots, people are unemployed, people are feeling hopeless and isolated, and this is a time where people need hope more than ever, and this story examines Batman and Gotham really at one of its lowest points where that hit. So even though there's no formal pandemic in this storyline, it's still very relevant in the idea of the apocalypse feels like it's hit. It feels like this is the end of the world sort of feeling, and people have to cope with that. So a very funny episode, everybody.
So this story is already gotten you down, but then you have this dedicated. I mean, sure, it's rough. It's rough. By the way, why were there so many fucking dark stories in the '90s when it was fucking Candyland compared to 2020? I feel like it's always the reverse, right? If things are going good, people want darker stories, but if things are going really bad, people want
you need hope. Yeah.
Want something.
The old
more,
Sullivan's
uplifting.
Travels dilemma. You ever see that movie?
Sullivan's Travels?
Yeah,
Or
Sullivan's
Gulliver's
Travels.
It's not Gulliver's Travels. It's a different one. Yeah.
It's Sullivan's Travels. It's where the Coen brothers got the title for "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Did not know that.
In the movie, long story short, just to go at that point, in the movie, this guy, he's trying to make a movie about how epic or how dramatic it is to be a homeless man riding the rails and the trains, and then the same director ends up having to live on the trains with the actual homeless people, and then he finds all they want to do is laugh, and so his next movie, instead of being this big drama, becomes a comedy that makes people happy and stuff during these hard times. Anyway, the old Sullivan's Travels dilemma. Look it up. It's real. I swear.
Makes sense. It's either that or he was able to really improvise really well at that part.
And the script he's writing in the
though.
movie is called "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Huh.
Oh shit.
So they took that
did
for
not
their
know
movie.
that.
That's cool,
Yeah.
though. So this is basically a survivalist disaster type movie, but mixed in with Batman and the Gotham City cast. So buckle your seatbelts. Here we go. So it starts off, of course, with, as we said, 7.6 scale earthquake hits Gotham, and Batman, of course, is in the Batcave, probably the worst place for him to get caught. So The ground.
He's dead. Right off the bat,
That's
dies.
the end.
First page.
25 years later.
Robin takes over.
Robin has to take over. He's like, I thought we were over this shit after Bane broke your back. But here he's basically Wayne Manor collapses into the Batcave, and that includes Alfred, who he gets caught too in the dining room of Wayne Manor and exclaims, "Oh my giddy aunt!" as the floor collapses underneath him and he falls in.
Oh my
giddy aunt.
heavens, me! I can't believe such a thing has happened to me.
Why was his aunt so giddy? That's what I want to know.
That's
What is
actually
that
it's
in
an
reference
English
to?
it's an English phrase, but funny enough, it is used a lot by the second Doctor in Doctor Who says it a lot before
Giddy
his
aunt.
character was regenerated into the third Doctor, played by John Pertwee, and John Pertwee's son, Sean Pertwee, ended up playing Alfred in Gotham. So there's a kind of a loose connection there with
Right.
the "Oh my giddy aunt" with Alfred, and in general with Doctor Who. So, but
This
yeah, Alfred
Bible
falls
placed
in.
here by the giddy ants.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Giddy aunt.
This almost feels like the Batcave, the Wayne Manor weighing down and almost collapsing. The Batcave is like almost symbolic of Batman's life in a way of just like everything, the whole burden that he has to carry at some point that's going to fall, and that's literally what happens as the Batcave almost floods in because of the fact that remember he's by a waterfall as well for him to do the bat boat and all that stuff.
Okay.
So he is trapped in the cave, but ironically gets saved by his cape because it catches on to part of the wreckage and leaves him hanging at one point. So for once, the cape is not actually a thing that hinders him. I mean,
fuck that short bitch in fucking Incredibles. She doesn't know fucking anything.
Exactly.
Wait,
She
who?
should
Oh, the
read
little costume lady?
Edna Mode. Yeah.
No capes, woman.
No capes,
Oh,
darling.
yeah.
No capes.
Batman needs his wings.
Around the same time, the GCPD roof collapses, and Gordon nearly gets crushed by the bat signal as it falls through and
Whoa.
breaks and stuff. In the meantime, Batman manages to get back to the cave, and Alfred is trapped under rubble, but he still seems to be okay. So in order to free him, Batman kicks off the giant penny to make it roll over, and kick off the wreckage. So I thought that was cool because you
So
rarely
he's
see
using the
Batman
shit in
actually
the
do
cave
something.
tactically.
Yes. So that's
Wow.
fucking awesome.
How many
Does he-
times, put a pin in this for later, but how many times has he used that penny to help him out of a jam? That's a lucky penny.
Or the dinosaur.
I think he's turned on the dinosaur at one point to fight Hush. 'cause it's a
animatronic?
robot. It's a robot dinosaur. It's not just a statue. It's a robot thing.
I did not know that.
This stuff actually comes from adventures from the comics. He just doesn't randomly have it. Like the
Do we
giant
have
pennies. Go ahead.
an episode planned for Batman's trophies?
That'd be
We
cool.
do. We do
I don't know
now.
why I'm messing.
We
Yes.
do now.
We're putting it in
I
the
didn't know if
schedule.
you did it before I arrived once again.
No,
anyway,
no, we haven't
sorry
done
to
it,
throw you.
no,
That's
no,
awesome.
so-
Those are...
Yeah, so he actually uses the giant penny, so that's cool. That's a cool part. But obviously, Batman and Alfred are okay. Gordon's okay. Tim Drake was on a trip, and so he's actually on a plane that's about to land in Gotham, and the plane's like, never mind, we're going to go to Bloodhaven. And then Tim looks out the window and sees Gotham is like on fire and stuff. Earthquake, and he's like, what? I've been gone for like 2 days or whatever.
It's like those
This
rich
shit's
people
happening.
deserve it. It's like looking on a Manhattan or something.
Yeah.
Bloodhaven is like New Jersey, but even worse.
Yes.
Either Batman's dead or he's lost his mind.
Nightwing, in the meantime, is at Bloodhaven and sees what's happening, and so he changes into Nightwing and goes across to Gotham in order to help.
How many
Oracle-
butt shots are in these panels, bro? Nightwing butt shots. 27?
I just wasn't looking there, so I don't know.
You could bounce a giant penny off of that thing.
Ooh wee. God.
Good callback.
Damn.
Yes.
You know that expression?
The electricity is out over at the watchtower where Oracle is at, so her comms are down because her entire system relies on electricity. So she literally has to wheel down to get outside to help people, and she starts sort of directing the GCPD because her father is incapacitated at that moment. But we get to see different people's reaction to trauma or disaster. Some people are crying, others are like trying to help other people. And the only buildings that are up are, funny enough, the Wayne owned buildings, because he was the only one who thought to earthquake proof the buildings that were around, with the obvious exception of Wayne Manor, because that was way too old for him to do anything.
I smell a conspiracy theory already.
Yes, but Wayne Tower is
who benefits?
Is fine. Yes, so
who benefits?
Q Gotham.
So Lucius
Q
Fox.
Gotham. Oh my God, it's actually not bad. Q Gotham. That's the next series by
Q Arkham.
Grant Morrison.
Please note.
Yeah, really.
Lucius Fox is fine then, because he's in Wayne Tower when everything happens, and so he's like, thank God Bruce decided to earthquake-proof everything. Sorry, it should have been.
Yeah, that
thank
was
God
smart,
Bruce
actually.
decided to earthquake-proof everything.
I bet he has a great relationship with the homeowners association. This guy just keeps his house in such great shape. I guess he would pay people to do that.
Well, he didn't though, because the Wayne Manor collapsed. Again, it's too old for him to have done that too. So only Wayne Tower.
How many times that thing gone down? Anyway,
I don't know. Ra's al Ghul destroyed in Batman Begins. It gets destroyed in Dark Knight Returns. But yeah,
random people just showing up in the '90s one, like people.
Yeah.
Just, like. Didn't Alfred just start bringing people to the Batcave without Batman's fucking permission?
Security.
when he's off on long adventures with the Justice League, Alfred's having like dinner parties.
There's a party here.
Yacht Rock.
Oh, sir, I've already had my cotillion here 3 or 4 times since you've been gone.
Does anybody want some of this white lightning?
You may not drink, but I certainly do.
Yeah.
He also shoots people too. He's got guns, so he's like shooting the ceiling and stuff. And he's like, I'll patch it up later.
Someone's got to take up the slack here, alcohol-wise and gun-wise.
Master Bruce doesn't notice anyway.
Anything if it doesn't have a tight leather suit on or a.
Speaking of whom, Catwoman is trying to check out that segue. She's trying to steal something, and she's in an elevator shaft when the earthquake hits. So she's in one of the worst possible places, but she's able to survive and get out. And she ends up talking to a girl who's dying. She's like 10 or so, and trying to comfort her in her dying moments. And then after she's gone, Catwoman is sort of motivated to become a little bit more of a hero to get everyone out of the collapsed building. And what she does, she sort of starts breaking down, crying from it all, just showing that even somebody as seemingly avoidant to different emotions can be broken down by the enormity of what's happening here. So
somebody's
that's what's
just dying before her eyes, right? Some
much.
innocent person.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. It's
see.
good. That's good writing. That could definitely break down anybody. Well, most people.
Yeah,
I think
the
fucking tough, bro.
The strength of these stories.
I don't care about anybody.
Yeah.
Except A number 1, baby.
The strength of these stories come more from just exploring humanity through Batman characters. It's not, yet again, the Joker has like taken the mayor hostage. It's more of just, how do these characters react? How do they handle this type of situation? So that's what I thought is fascinating, and this is why this is one of my favorite stories. In general, the whole Cataclysm through No Man's Land run is still one of my favorite stories because of the fact that it explores such another part of the character you never thought you would ever see. Because you think it'd be so much about the detective work and shit like that.
You're supposed to stand in between a door frame, I heard.
Yes.
That's how you deal with it.
Yes, very good. Very
I don't
good,
know if you
Luffy.
can still do that when it's 7.6 and you're in the epicenter. But
I've heard from some people in Japan, like in Kobe, like when it was the really bad one, they say it's like, dude, there's not much you can do. Like you try, do as much as you can, but if it's a really big one, you might be just fucked, dude. It's just
gotta
not
go
good.
ragdoll.
yeah,
It's just not
Ragdoll
good,
with the
man.
phone book over your face. I guess
Yeah.
you can't hold
Stuck
on to
in
the phone
cover.
book.
So does the earthquake shake open all of the locks at Arkham and then they're all free? I just feel like they're always getting free, bro.
it's not that convenient for us. So Arkham seems to be okay. Blackgate, however, falls apart. So
Okay.
one level, at one point, the guards are like, "We got to break out the inmates to save them because it's gonna break." So they break out the inmates, and the inmates naturally take advantage of the situation and start killing the guards. Batman arrives to try to stop it, but there is a fantastic story in the middle of this where before the earthquake hits, you meet a man named Jared Manx, who seems to be an innocent man. He's doomed to be on the electric chair, or lethal injection, I forgot which, but he's doomed for execution. But keeps claiming that he's innocent to his lawyer and the nun who's there to like read him his last rites and stuff. But then the earthquake hits, and they're all in the same situation together, and he tries to like help them out. And at one point, towards the end of that story, he is like holding up the debris and the rubble and stuff so that they can leave. And they're like, no, we can't just leave you. And he's like, well, I told you before that I'm innocent. I lied. I did kill everybody. So go. And then they leave, and he lets the debris crash down on him. And the lawyer and the nun are left wondering, okay, he lied. Did he lie about being innocent earlier, or did he lie about committing the crime just so that he could save their lives?
And the very last panel, he's like, I lied about everything. And he runs away.
I lied about both.
I'm not dead.
I'm not honorable. I just really love to lie.
I'm not even in prison. I'm just here.
I'm free. So
who was that guy?
Remember the Looney Tunes character that's, I know something you don't know. I know something you don't know. It's just like long hillbilly. I don't know why I thought of that. Anyway.
Jared Manx does sound like a hillbilly name anyway, though.
Yeah.
His name is Jared Manx.
Jared Manx, boy.
And Jared Manx is dead. But yeah, this is one of those, again, like exploring humanity, the different sides of Gotham that you don't really get to see that much in the regular stories, where most of the time they're just like, it's just some henchman or some person that Batman's pumping for information, and that's it. But you don't really get these perspectives from before. Batman has to swim out because he can't access Wayne Manor anymore, so he has to swim out to get out of the Batcave. Just so that he can see what's going on with Gotham, and he sees just the entire city has been taken down and everything, and he can't let that stop him. It says, quote, if he'd stopped to wonder what difference one man can make, there never would have been a Batman. So he starts trying to help people at one point, and he crashes the operation of the Penguin, who sees this as an opportunity for looting. And Batman decides to recruit all of Penguin's men, and his way of doing it is to threaten to kill all of Penguin's men if they don't comply, claiming that these are the new rules now. Obviously, this is just for show, but I thought that was really interesting, because how often do you see Batman actually threatening to kill people?
So he's at a breaking point already.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, it's pretty strongly implied that he's just doing this for theatricality's sake. He's not actually...
I swear that I definitely 100% am going to totally, maybe, almost kill every one of you motherfuckers.
Would you like a mint? Please stop yelling at me.
God damn that garlic. Fucking piece of shit.
I'll go
Alfred.
wherever yous wants me to go. Just please stop breathing directly upwards into my nostrils. Please.
How far away should I get away from you? Just how far?
The criminal died. He's dead now from breath. Batman kills. Bad breath.
Oh, God, my goddamn threat. I was good on my
Dark
threat,
Knight.
goddammit, no!
Use your Listerine. So Penguin at one point has to help the relief efforts, but he does it in his own penguin-y way. So there's a short story called A Bird with a Hand. Not bird in the hand, but bird with a hand.
Two in the
got a
bush.
helping hand, yes. By Rick Burchett. And Penguin's going around the survivors, and they're like, please help me. And he's like, what do you do for a living? And if that person seems to be someone he can use later for a favor, like a lawyer, then he helps them. If there's somebody that he can't use, like a teacher, he walks away and leaves them to die. That's Penguin's way of handling the rescues. There's a bunch of interesting rescue stories, because once the earthquake hits, you're kind of like, all right, I get it now. Earthquake hits, everything's a disaster. Let's see what happens. So there's a couple good stories with that. There's one called The Contract by Devin K. Grayson, where it's a bunch of mobsters, actually, who say, like, we signed a contract, we can't, like, commit any crimes, we got to help with the relief efforts for us to get paid. So they try not to fight amongst each other, and they try to help out, basically try to help these people who are trapped in a building that contains this kid who's convinced that Batman's going to come and save them. And then the mobsters show up instead of Batman, and the kid's like, did Batman send you? And the mobster just kind of, he thinks for a second, and then he just sighs, and he's like, yeah, he sent us, kid. And as they walk away, we find out the contract that they signed, the person who's paying them for the rescue efforts, is Bruce Wayne, of course. So technically, Batman did send them. They just don't realize that. So I thought that was a really creative way to keep exploring how Gotham handles rescue situations.
That's cool.
The contract,
much
but not
darker
the Judas
one.
one. A different one.
Yes. There's a much darker one called Trapped, also by Chris Renaud, who comes up later, where it's there's a man waiting to be rescued, and he starts hearing Robin coming, and he's like, oh, they're coming to help me. And Robin ends up pulling out someone else from the wreckage, and then Robin thinks that his job is done along with the other people, and they walk away. And he's like, they're still coming to help me, right? And then that's the end of the story. You don't know what happens to him. Yeah. Batman ends up disguising himself as a cop during the day to help with rescue efforts during the day. So he's not in the Batman costume when the sun's up, but he still gets to help out.
Haven't I seen you somewhere before, mister?
My name's like Reginald Bernard. I'm not from Gotham at all.
I still don't
He's
get
twisting his
how...
handlebar mustache.
He does actually have a
You
mustache.
just look real familiar, fella. Anyway.
Gordon
You've
sees
never
him.
seen the likes of me before. Never
Yes.
will again.
Gordon actually does see him, and he's like, I don't recognize you. And he's like, oh, like, you've seen me before. It's just I usually work at night. And Gordon's like, oh. And then he realizes who it is.
I
sort
work
of thing.
the night shift. What could it mean?
The graveyard shift.
Twinkle
You remember
Toes Away.
The musical.
And then he slaps him in the face and says, shut that sexy bat mouth. Because he knows his jaw, right? And he holds it. Yeah. And then he goes, I'll see you later. and then Solomon Grundy is
Batman is
stealing
just
hospital
wide-eyed,
supplies.
I don't know what to think about this.
Did Gordon just kiss me?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. How do you know? So,
Is there another earthquake or is it up my knees?
Crazy shit happens during the cataclysm.
yeah,
What
exactly.
happens during the catastrophe stays in the catastrophe.
Just changes you, man.
Yeah,
Or shows your true
exactly.
colors.
Exactly.
One of those.
So Gordon and Batman are now having an affair. No.
That's what I'm talking about.
In the meantime, the TV, all the working TVs that are able to work, come on, and a bald man calling himself the Quake Master, claims to be responsible for the 7.6 earthquake and keeps threatening the city. That
Sounds like a Flash villain, the Quake Master.
Yes, the Quake Master. He says that
That's
if you
pretty
don't
cool.
pay me, of course, then
Is he eating a
that's what the
bowl of
ladies call
oatmeal
me.
while he delivers this address?
no, it's
Quaker
not
Master?
that type of Quake. It's
Oh,
Quake
okay.
Master, not Quaker Master.
Wait, is he suspect number one right now because his Quake is in his name?
Yeah, Batman's like, it might be the guy who called himself Quake Master. I don't know, though. Need more
knock his
evidence to
fucking teeth out.
find out. So he seems to keep himself in shadow for most of the time. He's kidnapped the main person who predicted the earthquake from happening, that the earthquake was going to happen. So there is a character who was warning that Gotham, even though it's not over a fault line like California or anything like that, like it was due for some sort of earthquake, and only Bruce Wayne listened, and that's why he earthquake-proofed all the buildings. But she gets kidnapped by the Quake Master, and the GCPD with like Bullock and Montoya, as well as Tim Drake, are investigating like who is this guy, and they try to find clues in the TV. He seems to use some sort of voice changer thing, or he's in some sort of shadow. And Tim Drake is the one who figures out there's something off about how the Quake Master talks. In fact, the Quake Master seems to avoid any word that starts with the letter B. And so he ends up talking to the Quake Master through the TV and challenges him, saying, "Say my name." Quake Master says, "You're Heisenberg." I mean, he says, "You're Robin." He refuses to call him Robin.
You're
And
Destiny's Child. Right? That's the reference is way too old. Right, sorry.
and he storms in the room and sees that Quake Master is literally a puppet. And it's the ventriloquist sitting there.
Ventriloquist, yeah.
Because ventriloquist can't say anything with the letter B without tipping that off. He only can say it with G, if you remember our interview.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, if you remember our interview
to-
with Andrew Sellon, yeah.
Yes.
So
Dang, I didn't pick that up. I thought he was trying to hide the fact. No, stupid. But that was great.
what do you think? Who did you think it was? What did you think was going on?
Because you can't say a "the," but you got to use your tongue in a weird way.
Yeah. Which is weird because it's not like you're
Batman.
seeing him. It's not like you're seeing him talk anyway through it. But
Right.
yeah, Quake Master's been a puppet the whole time. Ventriloquist loses Quake Master and gets Scarface instead, and Scarface gets his head blown off by one of the GCPD detectives. So that's the end of the Quake
puppet's
Master.
head falls
but
off.
obviously, yeah. Well, it gets like cracked and shattered and stuff, but Scarface always comes back.
Did they shoot his head? They killed him? Is that where
They kill-
ventriloquist dies? Canonically?
If you
No,
kill the
actually,
puppet,
he's
does the
done?
ventriloquist die too?
Oh.
It's like in the Matrix. You die in the
No, he
Matrix. You
doesn't.
die
He
in real
doesn't.
life.
I almost lost my mind. They
No,
killed
the
him?
ventriloquist gets killed some other way. But yeah,
It'd be
Scarface
funny
always gets
though
shot.
if like they blew off his head, but it takes his hand.
I was thinking that too.
Blows off ventriloquist's hand. I don't know. That'd be kind of a funny image, actually.
It would be. It'd be terrible for.
That's like some Garth Ennis
Arnold
writing
Wesker, though.
Batman or something.
yeah,
Yes,
pretty much.
Yes.
Yes.
Doesn't Garth Ennis hate like regular superheroes?
Yeah, probably. I think he
he
writes
just
The Authority.
he just likes the super dark ones like Punisher.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's see, but Gotham has been torn down, which means that Batman has to adapt to the new environment because he can't use the grappling hook anymore because buildings are falling apart.
Whoa, shit, that's cool.
So that's kind of cool.
Dang. So now
so-
he uses a bat extendo pole and shoots himself up from the ground, right?
He's going to need
Meow.
boots for that.
Like a what are those called? Pole vaulting pole. The bat pole vault. Anyway.
Mhm.
He
The
doesn't
Bat
use that, does he?
hovercraft. Does he have a?
Yes.
Does he ever have a? No, well, it would
I
fuck
think
up
he
with the
does
cape.
at some point, but I don't think he has one now. He's pretty much
Bat
surveying
bow.
Gotham just on foot and jumping on the remnants of the different rooftops in order to help rescue people.
Dang. Okay.
So
Okay.
that is Cataclysm so far in terms of like the earthquake, and then a villain claiming to have responsibility for the earthquake, but of course it just turns out to have been Mother Nature in the end. It's never revealed of any villain behind it, who would be behind it, but that is the first part of the story.
By the way,
some are
where
trying to
in the
capitalize
90s
off
are
it.
we in this? Where was this 91, 98? Like what is
This is like This is going into like 97 through
Okay.
99, because 99 I think is when No Man's Land started. But
Okay.
it needed a big lead up to it. So around the time that you saw rubber nipples and George Clooney pulling out a back credit card, this was the storyline at the time. So you can imagine why fans were infuriated by Batman and Robin, because they weren't down for 1966 Batman. They were only down for they were reading No Man's Land and shit like
Right.
little girls dying and some guy potentially lying in order to save somebody else's life so he could sacrifice his own. Like, these are the stories that fans were reading at the time. So just to go to the theater and see that wasn't being represented and that people saw Batman as a joke when, just pick up any comic at the time and find that there's some serious drama going on, I'm sure that's what helped contribute or fuel the hatred for that movie. Even though, as we found, that's pretty unfounded. But
They
what
had
do
to
you-
wait for some real star power to join the cast.
Indeed.
They weren't going to just sit around with the guy from ER, just only him. No, they needed a star
Get
who's
down.
getting down right now. Anyway,
So this is
Nice
part
to meet you.
one of this. Basically, there's three main parts to this whole storyline. Cataclysm is basically just the earthquake and what happens. Next is Aftershock, which is the rescue efforts and everything like that, and that's what we'll cover after the break. And then the big one that this is all leading up to is No Man's Land, which is what we'll have a separate episode on.
Yes.
But this
Can't
is just
wait.
the lead up to it. What do you guys think so far of this idea of Gotham basically at its lowest point?
I love it. Especially love watching these rich people get what's coming to them. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a bunch of
It's pretty
poor people,
harrowing.
too.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I like it so far.
There's even some points where the homeless people are just like, now everyone else knows how we feel.
Yeah.
Oh,
damn.
Reddit, like,
Oh,
boy.
yeah, they-
and then they
they
start
put that
eating
in
out of
there.
the garbage. Oh, this diaper's fresh.
Oh my god.
And then, like, we're all
Ah!
Andrew, what do you think?
So, like, New York doesn't really have earthquakes, but Gotham does. Now, that's just obviously the first thing is like, oh, Gotham has earthquakes. How often does this happen in any of the stories? Is this the only time there's been an earthquake-based story in Batman?
An earthquake-based story. I don't know if there are other earthquakes that happen along the lines. I think because of the fact that we associate Gotham with more of the East Coast, we don't necessarily think of it as it happening.
Yeah.
Plus, like, both stories are concerned about who Batman is stopping, not what he's stopping, in terms of like Mother Nature and shit like that. So
Yeah.
this is why this is so refreshing, because you get to see them pushed into these boundaries that you never really thought you would ever see them do.
Right.
So that's what I appreciate about this.
Right.
hell
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's definitely
like-
seeming pretty like intense scenes so far.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I really
I'm liking it so far.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate how you were saying there's these different stories and things like right after the event hit, and you have these small little tales written by different writers and artists and stuff that It reminds me of like World War Z or something. It's like this is how the whole place is dealing with it as the minutes are going by and stuff. And it's like that's super cool. That's such a cool approach to this.
Yeah. No, it's great.
So far.
I think
There's no one to blame, you know. There's
Exactly.
no arch villain. There's not, you know, it's just natural disasters. So yeah, that does make it different.
All right. Before we break, I'm going to go into the first monologue that we have here, which is kind of summarizes the Cataclysm storyline thematically, but from the perspective of Ra's al Ghul, who, of course, was thought to be dead at the end of Legacy, but obviously he always comes back, and he's watching and surveying this. And,
The Lazarus Pit.
and he has some interesting insight into what's going on that ties into what we talked about. So he says, quote, Gotham's mighty champion is forced to walk the streets and crawl among the rubble, trying to defeat what cannot be beaten. There is no villain to bury your fists into, no Bane, no Joker. Your childish yearning for vengeance can find no outlet. Now everything you once relied on cannot be trusted. The city's instability makes all of your weapons and tricks unreliable and useless. Your small efforts are in vain. Regardless, you continue to pursue your perceived enemy with wild abandon, hoping to wrestle your untouchable opponent to the ground. Finally, you have encountered something that doesn't fit your naive perceptions of good and evil. Yet even in the face of insurmountable odds, you wage your holy war without realizing that you cannot save Gotham this time. I ask you this, detective. Who is the madman now?
Boo!
Damn, you did not blink once during that shit, bro.
But basically he's saying,
Serious shit.
why are you looking at me? I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's what
In
it is.
so many
really.
words. It's like, come on, Raish, go with the...
It was a natural disaster.
It's gotta fill up a whole issue of shit. So yeah, that's what we got.
And then he
But yeah.
sauntered off with a new spring in his step. Did they write that?
Yes.
You love
I
the
got
word
Batman.
sauntered.
Raish. That's the best word.
That's
ever
like
made.
me with tutelage. You loved sauntered.
Sauntered.
All right. After the break, we will
Raish
explore
wins.
the aftermath of this. A storyline called Aftershock, which is collected in a collection called Road to No Man's Land. But this is all the stuff that leads up to the No Man's Land story. Catch you after the break.
Get yourself a snack. The Joker's kidnapped Robin and taken him to a warehouse downtown. I've got to get there and help him. But what ride should I take? The Batcycle would be the fastest, probably, and the funnest, if I'm to be honest. But the Batmobile's probably the most reliable, and probably the most menacing, so it'd clear traffic. The Batboat I could take. I haven't taken the boat in a while. No, none of that. How about the Bat Truck?
Gee whiz. I sure am about to die.
Should I take the Bat Bicycle? I've been meaning to work out. Should I take the Bat Fat Tire Cruiser? It's been a while since I've hit the beaches. Maybe I'll dust off the Bat Scooter and take it for a spin. Boy, I sure hope Robin's delaying the Joker from doing anything crazy.
Surely Batman's already on his way.
I feel like I can be pretty discerning here because my ward and protege, Robin, can handle himself. I'm kind of leaning back towards the Batcycle again. Alfred!
Yes, sir.
What should I take out here? The Joker's, he's up to some shit. Robin's taking care of it, but I should probably go.
I suggest the usual game of eeny, meeny, miny, and mo.
You're a bloody genius, alright.
I dare say I am, sir.
Oh, that crowbar really does smart.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If he... Wait a minute. How the hell does the rest of that one go? Oh, shit. Yeah, Bat Truck.
All right, everybody, if you like that little preview to the sketch right there, we have that plus news, plus we're bringing back some opinion pieces and review type stuff and all kinds of stuff in our $5 tier on Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and if you become part of the $5 tier, you can see these new bonus episodes. Basically, consider it Superhouse DLC.
Hey there, this is Andrew Sellon, better known to you as Mr. Penn and the Ventriloquist on Gotham.
And this is Mr. Scarface,
And if you know what's good for you, you'll listen to SuperHousePodcast. Get it?
And we're back, everyone.
Yes.
Ready for Ben to regale us with part 2 of Cataclysm.
Also known as Aftershock. Yes. So if you thought the first part was depressing, wait till you get to this part. So
here we go.
We're dealing into a whole bunch of stuff.
The way you have built this up, it's like a little much, Ben.
I've seen Requiem for a Dream 10 times. Nothing could depress me more than that.
Okay, that's true. It's probably not as big as that. But yeah, so we go into how Gotham is reacting to all of this. So there's this depressing as fuck story about a man who, he lost his whole family to the earthquake. And Batman actually stops him from committing suicide. And he asks Batman, how can you keep fighting? Or why do you keep fighting when there's no hope? And Batman says, well, the dead are beyond pain, so the living should be spared of it as much as possible before he basically helps him out. So I'm like, that's a good stance to have, because this is one of those things where it's it's easy to lose hope, and so much about the storyline is how do you find hope in a hopeless situation, which seems very relevant to this year in general with what people are going through. So Batman is constantly trying to fight to provide that hope for people. At one point, there are survivors trapped in a subway train.
If Will Smith was Batman, he would have said, "'Cause I make this look good," and then plunk the air.
And the guy would just fall to his death anyway. Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, this Will Smith Batman's pretty good."
Hell no.
Anyway, sorry.
So survivors are trapped in the subway train, and the only way to get there is through the tunnels from the Batcave, and Batman is actually willing to risk walking the survivors through the Batcave remnants and even expose his secret if it means saving their lives. So that ends up not happening just because they find the rat catcher there, who, if you guys aren't familiar with, he's the guy who can control rats. He's like the Pied Piper. He can control rats and stuff, and so he ends up guiding them for another way out. But I thought that was an interesting thing.
What's it, dog welder or something like that? There's some
dog welder. Yeah,
dog welder, right?
Comic was that? What the fuck comic
That's
was that?
ridiculous.
Dog welder.
And then
I haven't read it.
Some parody.
Remember Freakazoid from Animaniacs and all that kind of 90s WB cartoons? So in Freakazoid, I think they were playing off a dog welder or something. But there was one villain in Freakazoid where he could turn beavers into gold. And it just introduces him as walking by a pet shop, and the beavers are like, no, and then he goes like Palpatine or something, and turns them into gold. It's hilarious.
It's like in that cartoon, the old Looney Tunes cartoon, or Felix cartoon, and he's like, "I'm going to turn the world's diamonds into jelly beans." No, that's a hardcore fucking
from?
power. From Felix the Cat.
Weird.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I mean, I've seen some Felix the Cat.
Well, the clip that I'm referencing is in the movie Ghost Dog, and he turns... Anyway, that was, just a villain with a silly power. We need more of that.
Deep cuts. Yeah. But during this time with Ratcatcher, Batman actually confesses that he sees Tim Drake as the next logical successor to being Batman, which I thought was interesting.
Nice.
Probably because it didn't work out so well with John Paul Valley, the Azrael
fucking
character.
Idiot.
Who, by the way, Azrael is going to come and play a big role coming soon.
Azrael!
I have a new costume. Look at it.
Yes.
It's cooler. Anyway, what's going on here in Gotham? That's my impersonation.
It's 1997, and
did you check out my hood? The hood's cool, right? Gauntlets, they're heavy as hell. Anyway, what's up?
And then since it didn't work out with Dick Grayson taking over, he feels that Tim Drake is the next logical successor. So I thought that was interesting. Let's see.
And the costume doesn't fit him. It's all baggy. He's running around in bat.
It's like, God damn it. Batman's like, you weren't supposed to take on the cow at 17.
Yeah, kid-sized version, bats.
Bat Boy. Yeah, so
there's
no Bat Boy.
The dash.
Yeah. Anyway. There's always going to be somebody who's selfish during a time of crisis or when people are in crisis. So at this one point, there's one dude who complains about having to wait for food from these people giving it out, and this old woman points out that they're all in the same boat, and he's going to have to toughen it out if they're going to get through this together. So he's reminiscent of... He's the guy who refuses to wear masks, basically.
Yeah.
At this point.
He's also that guy in The Dark Knight who was like, well, nobody wants to get their hands dirty, do they?
Yeah, and he just doesn't do it anyway. Yeah.
He's that guy. He's in every story.
Right.
And he's played by that in particular actor each time.
Let's bring him back.
I'm just going to state that. Yeah.
He's
typecast.
Nobody wants to get their hat dirty.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to wear a mask. I have freedom. I have freedom on this boat, and I don't care if those stupid criminals die. They made their choices.
I'm an
They wore
American
masks.
citizen, and
This whole thing is a conspiracy theory for the government to control us.
I got
Q
rights.
Q Arkham.
Q Arkham.
Q Arkham. Looters are all over the place here, so that's another interesting thing. At one point, there's a curfew because of all the looting. Sound familiar? Batman.
I forgot
has to
about
fight-
curfews.
Yeah. And Batman even has to fight people who are trying to kill the looters. At one point, he's like, "You think I saved you from murder just to watch you murder someone else?" And the guy's like, "They're looters. They deserve to die," says the guy. So clearly,
I want to kill something.
The punishment for stealing bread is obviously death.
Yes.
Because this is the Middle Ages.
Shot by a 9-year-old kid with a rifle his dad just bought him for Christmas.
Yes.
New
Oh,
sight.
my grandpappy got me this here rifle, and I surely do love it. It just goes boom, 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 and oh man, it is great.
So Gotham turned into one of these shitholes we hear about.
Yeah, if it wasn't there already.
It's a shithole country.
shithole city. Stephanie
Shithole city.
Brown, the spoiler, asked Robin. This is before her turn as Batgirl. But Stephanie Brown asked Robin to get her spoiler outfit from her house because just in case the looters raid her house. So looters are all over the place. People are desperate. There's another group of people who are trapped and they got no food supply, and so they end up having to draw straws to figure out which one of them is going to get eaten during this time. So
What?
that's a dark as fuck storyline, and Batman ends up showing up a little too late after one of the guys has desperately tried to kill someone else and already succeeded in doing that. And at the very end of the story, we find out that the reason why they were there was because of a birthday party, and they had already eaten the birthday boy to survive during
What?
this. Yeah.
There's no food.
And then they
At
turn the
all.
lights on and
They
it's
only
like,
had
oh wait,
enough
the
food.
cake is over here.
The ca-
They had enough food for a birthday party, not for like a whole week trapped in
so they
the same
choose
room.
the kid.
The
that,
7-layer dip wasn't even touched.
Oh no! It's not a kid. It's an adult man, but they still kill him.
Okay, I was thinking it
still
was
have
some
7-layer
kid with
dip.
like a pinwheel hat, like one of those fucking deals.
We're not gonna go with
kind of
that
chubby
dark.
kid. That's why
Yeah.
they chose to eat him. That was all in my head during that time you just told me. So.
Yeah, no,
It's Ralph
no.
Wiggum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
yeah.
My
Let's see. There's more. There are like
Super
stubborn.
Nintendo Chalmers.
There's like stubborn old people who refuse to leave their crumbling homes, and like they have to like save them from their crumbling houses.
I've been here since 1972, and I ain't never leaving.
Exactly.
I got this pulley out of the old mine shaft. Go ahead and grab on the end of that rope.
If I survive polio and all manner of tornadoes and twisters and whatnots, I surely can withstand another Quaker.
Let's see, there's potential disease spreading. The cholera starts spreading around, so we got disease on top of this disaster, and Batman even has to deliver an anti-cholera vaccine. But let's see. Other things that he does, there's a rich
Do
neighbor.
not get that vaccine.
Hey, wait.
Wayne has put in the microchips to control our brains and make us dumber.
That's exactly what they say in Gotham, yeah.
Speaking to Andrew's
Everybody in the
Old
outskirts of Gotham, dude. South Gotham, they all talk like that.
Yeah.
West, yeah. Was there ever like an Old West story Batman, like a cowboy Batman?
Yeah, there's a few.
I mean, there's
and that
Gotham
used-
by Gaslight, but just
Well,
the
it's not really
southern...
a Western one, but there's
Yeah,
some
that's,
Elseworld
England.
stuff. Yeah. It's America
Like
during the Victorian
Gotham
era,
City.
but yeah.
The
18
early Wayne family
33.
shows up in Jonah Hex, which is like in the
Oh.
1800s.
Oh,
It's not
that's right.
Batman, though,
Also,
but-
when the Bruce Wayne, The Road Home, where Grant Morrison had, I think at one point he has because Bruce Wayne ends up traveling through time and jumping from one point to the next. So I think at one point he does show up for.
Was
Cowboy
it called
thing. I gotta look it up.
Gothamington? And they just got rid of the
The
Mington?
Ington? Yeah,
Ington?
exactly. No, that's,
Now,
I don't
what
remember
we know
that
is
part.
Gotham.
Yeah.
I'm just joshing.
Let's see. Wayne has a selfish rich neighbor who has a building, and he knows that if the building went down, that could clear a pathway for relief workers, and he refuses to do it. So Batman instead goes inside one of those forklift things and just basically clears the path by destroying this guy's building so that relief workers can show up. And then afterwards, he goes to his parents' grave, basically saying that there's little he can actually do against disease and natural disasters. Quote, a lost cause can become a fool's errand. So even he's losing some sense of hope at this point.
Indeed.
Indeed, yes. Bruce Wayne, however, kicks into high gear and trying to help the unemployed since no one can work in these conditions. He brings one of the unemployed to a meeting with other corporations who are thinking of pulling out of Gotham due to the quake. They're just like, there's nothing for us here. We can't continue business. And Bruce encourages them to, no, stay. And he asks the unemployed to help in the fight to keep the employers in Gotham or start their own businesses that he will help fund in Gotham. So this is the philanthropist side of Bruce that we don't really get to see that much in the movies outside of just like Bruce Wayne donated millions of dollars to charity. Like, this is him actually doing shit.
This is the answer to that rebuttal that people give you, right? Sometimes, well, why doesn't he hang up the cowl and use his money to actually help people? This is him actually doing that.
This is him actually doing that. He's been
that
doing
actually does happen all the time in the comics.
It's part of the storylines.
I think I was one of the people that asked you that.
Yes.
I hate when people say that stuff because it's like, you're thinking that because you are an adult. And
you hate Batman. Why do you hate Batman? That's what you got to say.
The core of this idea, really, I mean, look, we do grow up with comics. There are very adult Batman stories, of course, but it does come from like a medium for children originally, you know. So when people just say that kind of stuff, it really irks me.
Yeah, quit irking Andrew, everybody.
Quit irking me. I don't like being irked.
Plus, it's also like in the comics. It's also in here, and funny enough, the other corporations still don't take Bruce Wayne seriously because, and this is a big flaw in the Batman mythos that's naturally there, but they don't take him seriously because to them he's a billionaire playboy. He's not an actual businessman. He's not actually looking out for the people.
He just inherited money.
To them, he just inherited money, and also he doesn't know what he's doing because Lucius Fox runs the show. So they don't listen to them, and they pull out of Gotham.
Lucius Fox is CEO. Head cheese over Wayne.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how they see it. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Lucius, don't resign now. I need you.
You want to be able to turn your head. Yeah, I got to do a terrible Malcolm McDowell. What's his name?
Morgan Freeman, man. Ben's got a better Morgan Freeman than you do.
Put the gun down, David. You do this. He wins. Yeah, mine's terrible.
I don't have one at all. I'm not even going to try.
Batman.
I've seen Shawshank Redemption once, like years ago. I don't know.
But that's Bruce Wayne is trying to help, and throughout this whole thing, he tries to help as Bruce more so than Batman because he realizes there's so much more that he can do as Bruce Wayne for what's going on with the city. So I thought that was interesting, and it's basically this comic is a rebuttal to that argument. So I thought that was great. One of the great storylines here, just as a quick tangent, is called Master of the House by Lisa Klink, where thieves are like, oh, there's Wayne Manor, nobody's in there, so we gotta raid it. Well, Bruce Wayne is on patrol, so the only person in Wayne Manor is Alfred. And it's Alfred versus a gang of thieves. And so Alfred uses his training from the past to start picking them off one by one. He starts disguising himself as one of them and mimics the voices of the other thieves. At one point, he creates makeshift smoke pellets and sets off fireworks to blind a guy with night vision goggles, and everyone around thinks that illegal fireworks are going off, but it's really Alfred protecting his domain because he's the true
Home Alone with an old man.
Yes, he's the true master of the house. And then when Bruce Wayne comes back, everything's all cleaned up, and he's none the wiser, and Alfred doesn't even tell him what happened.
Somebody said they said that if they reboot Home Alone, it should just be Macaulay Culkin again, same like the age he is now.
Yeah,
and just kind of play it straight.
Yeah,
just trying to get into his compound.
Yes.
It'd just be totally different, but hilarious in a different way.
How much time does he have for prep? He can do anything.
Yeah, that whole fucking thing. Yeah.
Well, Alfred is improvising. He has no time for prep because he literally just got up in the middle of the night and started seeing the thieves come towards it. So it's a great story. We'll go further into it whenever.
Is there a scene where Alfred puts on that movie and he's like, "I'll give you to the count of 10 to get you smelly, no good." Dang it!
No, he ends up.
I wouldn't put it past Alfred.
He impersonates the guys that he's taken out. So I thought that was cool.
Hey,
it shows his training.
No, I'm over here.
It shows his acting training just because he's able to do mimicry, vocal mimicry. There's several comics where Alfred pretends to be Bruce over the phone.
That's tight. I had no idea.
So that's
awesome.
One of Alfred's many secret talents.
Hello, this is
Bruce
Wayne. Behind you. Do not look. And then they look, and he's like, crank. He's like, works every time. The Yoda voice never fails.
You're Alfred as Yoda.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
it's terrible. You're going down this super meta voice acting hole.
They burned the forest down, Master Bruce. No, that doesn't go over. They burned.
Hey, Kermie, I'm over here. Kermie, watch out! Don't look here now. Piggy, look over there. What's behind you, Piggy? Anyway, let's move past this. It's starting to turn into an episode of Twin Peaks.
Everybody is everybody's desperate, and so a lot of more people are turning to crime naturally. At one point, Montoya and Bullock get ambushed by criminals, and Montoya actually hesitates because she recognizes that one of them is her own cousin, and she freezes because she doesn't know if he's doing it because he's part of a gang now, or if it's because he's just committing a crime to feed his daughter. In which case, like, she can't, in good conscience, even stop him on that. So she breaks down over that. Even Batman's breaking down at one point. He hugs Alfred because he's not able to handle all the death that's around him.
I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So much fucking death, Alfred. Holy.
People basically start losing hope. At one point, Vesper Fairchild, who's the radio personality, who's Bruce Wayne's girlfriend during this time, she brings up the idea that maybe Gotham actually deserved the quake to happen to them, based off of...
Wait, who said that?
Vesper Fairchild, Bruce's girlfriend.
Okay.
Vespa.
Vespa
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes, not to be confused with Vesper from Casino Royale. This is different Vesper, but this is where people start being like, well, maybe Gotham deserves this because it's been such a hell, crime-ridden city this entire time. So maybe this is a good thing. At one point, Gordon even thinks that maybe he even says at one point maybe the earthquake didn't do enough. Maybe the city should have been totaled so that we can start the whole thing clean.
And he's already wearing tribal makeup and a loincloth.
Yeah.
Time to begin anew. Year zero, bats.
Yes.
I'm king and I get to have as many wives as I want. That's rule number one.
Let's see.
It's going to be called Gordon Town.
Gordon Town.
Gordon, are you drunk?
Let's see. Lucius Fox isn't even sure if they can rebuild. Lucius Fox isn't even sure if they can rebuild Gotham at this point, and people
The
are
structural
calling
integrity
themselves.
of the city will not hold.
There's a group of people calling themselves the Quick, based off of the Quick and the Dead,
Quick.
who believe that it's time for them to leave Gotham and abandon it, so they all start fleeing the city. So that they don't end up being one of the dead. That it also includes a ton of cops. So GCPD is dwindling down during a time where they need the cops more than ever. And so there's one scene, this is depressing as fuck, but there's one scene where all of them are leaving on a bridge, but there's so many of them that the bridge collapses. And they all fall into the water to their deaths.
Oh my god.
I never saw Paris!
Fucking idiots. They should have tested the structural integrity of that goddamn bridge before they got everybody in the fucking city on it.
I specifically asked if I could throw the rock to see if the bridge would hold, and you said no. Now we're dead.
Maybe we should have sent all the cops in Gotham City down to the sewer, huh?
Yeah.
What if that happened in Dark Knight Rises? The bridge just
all of Gotham is dead.
When they're all...
Batman comes back when there's like nobody in the city. He's like, what?
Everybody's saved except for anybody who was on that bridge. It's all my fault. You guys have to be Batman longer, and they're like, yeah, all right, awesome. He's gonna stay Batman, guys. Anyway,
so at one point,
Bizarro world.
There's a story called "At the End of the Day" by Chuck Dixon, where Batman talks about humanity being selfish during these times. So I think it's very relevant to 2020.
Crime isn't Gotham's biggest problem right now. Survival is. That takes something more long-range than our nightly vigilance. The citizens of Gotham have forgotten that a city is a contract. That citizenship means responsibility. It is not what's in it for me. It is not where's my share. It is not hooray for me and to hell with you. And we're going to have to remind them of that.
Thank you, indeed, Wizard, as Batman.
I swear I have more impressions, but I just love that one.
So this is a character-driven story with Batman and Nightwing as they patrol and basically try to find ways to give hope to Gotham as well as remind people to help each other out and not be selfish during these times. At one point, there's a bunch of people who are trying to loot a relief station, and they end up spraying people with a combination of turpentine and bat guano so that they all smell, and it discourages them from stealing, as well as
Batman's poops.
There's a dye on it as well that will enable cops later on to see them so that they know who was there and who was trying to loot it. So
how is the Joker handling all of this?
Oh, you'll find out.
Oh, I'm excited to see that.
This is just about the heroes stuff. We haven't even talked about what villains are going to strike soon, and take advantage of all this. But at one point, Bruce talks about how he always pictured that he was going to do this mission until he died, to try to make Gotham a safer place, and that one day that safe place would happen, and he would be long gone. And he ends that monologue by saying, "Now Gotham is gone, and I'm still here." So it's almost like his existential crisis is happening on this, as well as the fact that
he truly is an island.
Yes, he feels like an island, but he's got Dick Grayson there, and so Dick Grayson talks to him about
hug me, Dick.
He's clean. Yes,
I feel pretty down, to be honest.
Yes. Let's see. This is also very relevant to 2020 here because Dick Grayson.
I also feel down. Oh wait, there's two of us.
Crisis on Infinite Batman.
Oh my God.
Preview, everybody, for a future sketch. Dick Grayson is thinking of cleaning up Bloodhaven from the inside by becoming a cop. So this is the first time.
I just imagine Bloodhaven and pronounced in German is Bluthaven.
Yes.
Bluthaven.
Bluthaven.
So Dick Grayson, this is where he first comes up with the idea of being a cop, which you saw in Titans, as well as went into John Blake being a cop in The Dark Knight Rises.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce isn't too crazy about Dick Grayson becoming a cop because, quote, it's dangerous and blurring personas. Nightwing says he'll tone down his experience, and Batman asks, well, what about deadly force? You'll be wearing a gun. How will you tone that down? So, very relevant.
I'll shoot it in the air. I won't point it at it. Jeez, leave me alone. It's a cool gun. Look.
So, at one point, Dick is flat out brings up John Paul Valley, who's going to come into the storyline pretty soon. But Dick asks, didn't you think I was good enough to be
By the way, every time you say John Paul Valley, I just get this image of my head of a guy that owns like a 90s like Vidal Sassoon or L'Oreal or somebody that owns like a shampoo, herbal essences, like a shampoo company.
He does have long hair. Yeah, he's got long blonde hair. And it's so
John Paul Valley, the latest essence by John Paul
Valley.
The latest Batman.
Gotham City needs a trim, and I'm going to give it to them. John Paul Valley. Products by John Paul Valley.
If
you
hair
deserve
grows,
a better haircut.
Yes.
If hair grows too wild, it must be trimmed.
Yes.
By someone.
That's
by
not
the
the
purging
haircut you
file.
deserve. That's the haircut
you need right now.
Or you need right now, yeah.
Dang it. So Dick asks, didn't you think I was good enough to be you? And Bruce actually says, you're better than me. He says, like you said, half of your life isn't a masquerade. I let this mask take over my identity. I am Batman. I always will be. I've left myself, nothing else. So,
but Tim is a close second.
But Tim is a close second because he's going to be the successor. Yeah.
Fuck, it's getting awkward now. I'm going to leave.
So where does Azrael...
I did it again.
Dick pulls out his gun.
Dick pulls out his gun. Oh my God, not that.
I should just shoot him, even though I know he's wearing body armor, just to send a message.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. What am I saying?
Batman needs help because right now it's him, Nightwing, Robin. Huntress is going around too. She was trapped inside of a subway train during the time of the Cataclysm and helped everybody get out. But she's kind of doing her part. Nice. But Batman knows that he needs more, so he ends up turning to Jean Paul Valley for help. This is not the first time that they've teamed up. They also teamed up because Jean Paul was the one who alerted him to the whole contagion thing in the pandemic. And he asked Azrael, I need you to travel and stop a potential assassination. Right now, the U.S. government, is voting on what to do or how to help Gotham. And this senator, who might be assassinated, is the main one who wants to save Gotham. So Azrael goes, and he ends up failing to stop an assassination of the senator. And the person who's behind it is a really interesting villain that they just decided to introduce here, named Nicholas Scratch. So Nicholas Scratch.
Nicolas Cage shows up.
It plays Nicholas Scratch.
How did it burn? How did it burn? Not the bees.
No, Nicholas Scratch, and I'm in town now. No, that's my best Nick Cage. We'll work.
That's pretty good. I like the Nicolas Cage. That's really good.
Nicholas Scratch.
Call me Scratch. If you want to call me Scratch,
So Nicholas Scratch apparently was a geek who was looking through a telescope one night when a light particle from a distant star struck him through the telescope and into his eye.
That's my idea. God damn it. Anyway, go ahead.
And then it turned him from geek to Greek god. So now he's like this buff metal dude who he's like this rocker who's like it's basically like if you mix Marilyn Manson with I don't know, some like hyper intelligent celebrity at the same time.
Okay.
So like people see him as this this goth rocker, but also see him as like the authority on like a lot of different things. So Nicholas Scratch, however, has an ulterior motive. He's a villain here. He wants Gotham to suffer. He wants
I can't wait
Gotham
to see these.
to not. He basically wants the government. He's the one who's responsible for.
suffer.
Yeah, he wants. He's the one who's responsible for the upcoming No Man's Land, where he wants to make sure that America turns its back on Gotham.
Can you give your Nicolas Cage impression a lisp? I'm sorry, people with lisp out there.
I did.
You did, right? Okay.
I didn't realize it.
Nicholas Scratch also has henchmen who look like devils. They got like the horns and stuff. And at first you think that they're masks, only to find out later on that it's not a mask. He's surgically altered his henchmen to look like that.
These guys are not from hell. Yeah. I got a terrible Nicolas Cage. Never mind. I'm losing it. Go ahead.
Let's see. Azrael ends up having to save another politician's life because basically at one point Batman disowns Azrael, being like, "You fucked up." I mean, he doesn't say "you fucked up," but like he's basically like, "You fucked up from you had one
combed
job."
the hell out of this city, and I brought style to the act.
He's basically like, you had one job and you failed, and so John Paul decides to redeem himself by trying to save someone else and try to sway him into saving Gotham. And Batman shows up and says, "Look, I don't approve of your methods, but you did good work, and I think we can now work together. But because of the fact that Nicholas Scratch has framed you as the killer of that senator, you're going to need a new costume." So Batman gives Azrael a new suit.
Batman makes a suit.
He makes a new suit. Because the thing is, with John Paul, he has to have the original Azrael suit in order to click on the programming that's in his head called the system.
Okay.
So he can't just be he can't just fight as John Paul Valley,
right?
Basically,
because he's a hairstylist.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody expects the hairstylist to have a fighting technique.
This has got to stick, man.
Oh shoot!
Yes,
I brought my small combs and
he uses the his signature weapon is like a
hairspray
with a lighter.
Yes,
wrong pocket. Wrong
so
utility belt.
that's what's in store for Jean Paul in the upcoming No Man's Land. He's going to have a new costume, but for the time being, we'll just leave with that. But in the meantime, Bruce decides it's time for Bruce Wayne to fight for the city. So this is where we go into a storyline I teased back in the Bruce Wayne Batman Lifestyle episode, which is Bruce Wayne goes to Washington, D.C. to convince the U.S. government, to Congress, not to give up on Gotham.
Does he swear on a Bible?
Oh man.
He probably does off panel. That didn't happen, but Bruce doesn't seem to know politics very well. He only has one lobbyist, which means he's got like zero influence. And the guy warns him. He's basically like, "You're used to Gotham. You don't have any clout here. Clout is all you need in Washington D.C., and you have none of it." So Batman's he's trying to figure out another way to do this. So he ends up finding a senator who is trying to push the anti-Gotham agenda, basically being like, we should give up and stop having taxpayers pay to basically help out this shithole city. Like, this is the attitude that they have. It is a shithole city, is what they say. Again, back in like 97, 98, before the stuff that's going on now. So he terrorizes a senator who he thinks is like the connection to who might be behind this. And he finds his gun, and he says, quote, "You voted for increased gun control last session, yet you have no permit for this gun. I see you would exclude yourself from the law." So he finds out that kind of shows his stance on gun control, but he finds out that Nicholas Scratch is the one who's trying to sway senators and everybody and sway the world to turn Gotham into a no man's land, to cut off all of the government, to have the government cut off the city from any resources, burn all the bridges, get everybody out now, that type of shit. And so Bruce realizes that the only way to do that is for him to plead to Congress. So he goes, and before he goes in, the lobbyist is like, all the odds are stacked up against you. And Bruce is like, well, always have been. And he goes in, and there's this great issue of it where he makes this impassioned speech to Congress that's sort of like intercut with his career as Batman, sort of showing that like all of his career has led up to this. And bring up that you can't give up on the people. You can't. There are still good people here. Let give us a chance, that sort of thing. And the senators start interrogating him, and they start bringing up that you have millions of assets in Gotham, so maybe you're not here because you have a golden heart. Maybe it's because you want to line your pockets with government money and taxpayers' dollars. So Bruce basically
can't ever
fails.
catch a break, that guy.
Yeah. So he pretty much fails at that, and has to figure out what his new strategy is, but. As this is going on, we go to Arkham Asylum because you guys are wondering what the hell's been going on with Arkham.
I'd love to know.
So Arkham is
The
not
vending
as
machines
fucked
are
up.
out of Doritos.
Arkham has basically been cut off from any sort of resources. They're very limited in food. The staff is dwindling because nobody wants to work there anymore. They want to just leave the city. So you've got this pressure valve, it feels, because you got all these people who are locked up who are criminally insane and homicidal. And you've only got basically Jeremiah Arkham running the show with his assistant, David. And he doesn't know what to do. And at one point, a Joker crashes Arkham's office with an idea, and so here's my idea, he says, and I'm gonna have Wolfie read the Joker.
Tell me, what do you know of gladiatorial combat in the Roman era? In ancient Rome, when things got tough, the emperor staged gladiatorial combats. The theater of death kept people off the streets and their minds off their troubles, as well as bringing the emperor great esteem. Couldn't you use some great esteem, Emperor Arkham? This asylum is like a pressure cooker. Dr. A, allow me to demonstrate minimal staff, dwindling supplies, claustrophobia, increasing stress. If you don't have a safety valve, it's going to explode.
Very good.
Yeah,
so
good.
the Joker is basically suggesting, hey, stage a gladiatorial fight between two of the inmates, one being Killer Croc and the other one being another big guy named Pinhead, and it'll help out matters. Of course, he has an alternative motive, which is that, as you'll see, as a joke, he decides to switch out everybody's medications that Arkham is giving out. So,
Won't this be fun?
yes,
Why
Killer
do I have
Croc.
hair on the top of my feet?
Killer Croc gets stimulants instead of the stuff that's supposed to calm him down, and the ventriloquist gets double laxatives. I thought that was funny.
Oh, my God. So he's got bullshit coming out of the front and
Yes.
the back. Oh,
Maybe it was double because it's enough for two people, But during the fight, Croc kills
That had to hurt.
the other guy. Croc kills the other guy, Pinhead, and the Arkham inmates start rioting, and they take over the asylum, and they end up taking the keys to one of the guards from one of the guards. So like, there's no point in
about
locking them
every
up
other
anyway.
week with that place.
Has
So-
Croc ever gone toe-to-toe with Bane? I feel like that'd be a cool fight.
Yeah,
He
no,
has,
it's
yeah.
one of the first fights that Bane had, just to show
Oh.
that Bane meant business, and Bane just
Oh,
very
yeah.
quickly broke his arm. So,
Oh, shit.
Cool.
Not
but
his
Bane's
back.
not around. Bane's not around here for that. But it's down to Arkham and his other staff member, David, to sort of... They're kind of locked up in Arkham's office at this point, and the inmates have taken over the asylum, and they want out at this point. So David, the other staff member, actually puts on a bat suit to try to intimidate them, but they can tell it's not the real Batman, and they end up killing him, which leaves to just Dr. Arkham being the sole man running Arkham Asylum, because all the other security and guards and stuff have left. Even when he pleaded for them to stay, he's like, I'll pay you double, and they're just like, we all know you don't have the money, and they leave. And so it's just him, and he's like, I have a dilemma, because if I keep you all locked in the asylum, we have dwindling supplies. You'll all starve to death. And it's on him to protect, or, these are the people he's supposed to be treating. So his only other option for them to survive is to release all of the doors, to release everybody. from the asylum. And Joker knows that, and that's what he was planning on. So Joker shows up and basically is like, all right, we're here to kill you. And Jeremiah is like, wait. And Jeremiah decides, if you promise not to go to Gotham, I'll let you all out. And they're like, we promise. And Jeremiah knows that they're lying. They're not actually going to do that. But
He sees
it's
that
the only
one
way
guy
for him
going
to
to
do that.
Gotham.
Smart.
He's like, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
turn.
And
This
so
way?
he unlocks all the doors, and all of Arkham inmates, all of them leave to converge on Gotham because they know it's ripe for the taking. The only one who decides not to go, actually, is the Riddler, funny enough. The Riddler decides to go off the other way and explore other cities. So the Riddler actually...
I wonder
that's
what's
why,
over here.
Yeah, the Riddler actually does not participate in the No Man's Land storyline at all, which I thought was interesting because he's like one of the main Rogues Gallery members. But I feel like the main reason why is because they just didn't want to bother with riddles in No Man's Land, so they're
What
just
riddles
like,
lie beyond
Riddle me this.
off the
Why
panel?
do the earth shake? Well, it's because fucking tectonic plates and shit. Did you ever have a fucking actual science class there, Ed? Riddle me this. How do you know so much about tectonic plates? Man, you really got to fucking shut up.
He's not very smart.
What
Yeah,
riddles
yeah.
lie
All
behind
the-
this panel?
You're not
None.
as smart as you really come off if you don't
Yes.
know what the fucking tectonic plate is, man.
Everyone's
You're a
trying
riddle.
to get out.
Quit attacking
Everyone's,
me.
everyone's trying to get out of Gotham while the villains all find a way in. So at this point, the government has made it official. Gotham is to be shut down and to be declared a no man's land. The citizens of Gotham have 48 hours to evacuate.
Damn.
So shit's going down. Gordon has tried to find an exit plan based off of being encouraged.
couch.
Yeah, he's tried to, because at this point you can still travel from Gotham to other cities. So Gordon actually tries to get a police job at another city. And at first they seem like they're down, but then he forgets his glasses and he goes back to get his glasses, only to find out that he is basically the laughingstock to most of the country's policemen, because he's known as the guy who lost Gotham. He's reliant on a man in a cape and a bat suit in order to do his job.
Another guy
can't
that can't
get-
catch a break.
Yeah, he can't get a job as a policeman anywhere else. So Gordon decides to stay with himself and his wife, Sarah Essen, in Gotham during this time, as does Barbara, his daughter, Oracle. Lucius Fox leaves Gotham along with his family, so that includes Tiffany Fox. So I'm sure Valerie Ray Miller, our previous interviewee who voiced Tiffany, will be happy that they're safe. But Nightwing decides to go back to Bloodhaven. Robin's like, my dad and I are moving to Keystone City. So like everybody's deciding to fucking leave this city at this point because it's a hellhole. It's a no man's land. There's nobody going to be around.
Keystone City is where in the fake geography of DC World?
I'm not really sure, but it's where Jay Garrick, the original Flash, started
so
out.
it might be
So
more West Coast then?
probably, or a little bit more Midwest. Yeah,
Midwest,
I'd say.
maybe?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Indiana.
Yeah. So in the meantime, Nicholas Scratch decides that he wants Bruce
Hey,
Wayne
I'm
taken
Nicholas
out.
Scratch, I'm back. I'm scratching and I'm a devil.
So he
You're a
orders.
pretty cool guy, Nicholas. Let's hang out sometime.
Those aren't horns, but they are horns.
Yes.
I fucking love those horns, bro.
He sends his men to basically assassinate Bruce Wayne, and Bruce is talking to the mayor during this time when the assassination attempt happens, and due to a slight slip-up, the mayor of Gotham gets killed and shot to death instead
Does he
of
slip
Bruce Wayne.
to death?
Yes, he does. He slips.
That would be a
no,
really
she,
great turn of phrase.
Mayor Marion Grange gets shot to death by a sniper in this, and Bruce Wayne ends up disappearing right afterwards. So the president ends up signing the executive order to close down Gotham City, and Bruce Wayne, who was expected to show up at Congress to see that, is nowhere to be found. Bruce Wayne has now gone missing after
Who's the president
assassination
of this
mayor.
universe currently?
It's not said, but it was in the mid-90s,
okay,
so I'm
sorry.
going to assume it's Clinton at this point.
Oh, okay, the president. Okay, I see.
So this is how we end Cataclysm / Aftershock and lead into No Man's
Dang.
Land. Gotham has been, all the bridges are blown. Gotham is now a no man's land that the government has no control over or will not help. The villains are out of the asylum and are taking over Gotham. The GCPD is down to like maybe 20 people along with Oracle, and Batman is nowhere to be found.
Dang.
Where
And that's
is
the
he?
end of the story.
Times.
Where
And
is
a
he?
virus breaks out.
God damn it.
So, yeah, that is Cataclysm / Aftershock. I told you guys this would be depressing, but this is kind of the
Empire Strikes Back of our coverage.
Exactly.
So
yeah, as I was saying to Andrew offline before we started recording, this is like the Empire Strikes Back to lead into No Man's Land, because No Man's Land is one of the great seminal ongoing storylines, because all the villains, as you can imagine, have taken over Gotham City.
I'm excited.
They've carved out
Does Jean-Paul Vallée show up?
Jean-Paul Vallée shows up.
I brought a bigger
Jean-Paul.
cone this time. Anyway,
Yes.
all the characters
So,
will show up again.
let's see. The writers of this, just to list them all out, are Chuck Dixon. He's the main mastermind behind this. He was also the mastermind behind Contagion and Legacy. So he's the main one to thank. He's also the co-creator of Bane. So let's see. There's Alan Grant, Devin K. Grayson, Doug Mensch, Rick Burchett, Klaus Janson, Kelly Puckett, Chris Renaud, Lisa Klink, Bruce Canwell, Greg Rucka, who you'll hear more from next time, Marco Palmieri, and the late Denny O'Neil, who wrote a lot of the Azrael type stuff with Nicholas Scratch. I think he's the one who created Nicholas Scratch. And then art was by Jim Aparo, Jim Balint, Eduardo Barreto, Mark Buckingham, Rick Burchett, Klaus Janson, Staz Johnson, Alex Maleev, Scott McDaniel, Graham Nolan, Kelly Puckett, Chris Renaud, Norm Breifogel, John Beatty, Vince Giarano, David Baller, Sal Buscema, Bob Hall, William Rosada, Bryce Stillfreeze, Roger Robinson, Joe Staten, James A. Hodgkins, and Roger Cruz. So
That's a lot of people.
That's a ton of people. Well, remember, this is like years.
Stealth all day, baby.
This is basically, if you read the comics, the collected editions, what I just covered is only the first 1,200 pages of the storyline. So there's a lot more to come. But they are collected in editions, so you would find basically the latest editions from 2015 called Cataclysm, and then 2 other ones that cover Aftershock, which is called Road to No Man's Land, in volumes 1 and 2. Keep in mind, though, that whoever was behind it did not actually put them in that great of an order, especially when you get to the later volumes.
I've heard of No Man's Land, of course, but I had no idea going into this that there was actually a prelude series called Cataclysm for this whole deal. Because I remember No Man's Land was so big in the 90s, I feel like I wasn't even going to comic book shops, but you would see it like displayed in the front. Sorry, I almost knocked on my mic. The front of like Barnes and Noble and shit, like, you know, everywhere. It was everywhere. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the Cataclysm. That's why Emma, the one I dedicated this episode to, she was like, "Hey, like, you want to check this stuff out beforehand?" Because if you just start with No Man's Land, you're already confused. You're like, "How did it get to this point where the government cut it off? Why is Batman gone?" And you might think like, "Oh, that's part of the mystery of the story." And it turns out it's not. It was set up. They had many months of storylines for this stuff. So yeah, find the collections. They're on Comixology as well, of Cataclysm, Road to No Man's Land, volumes 1 and 2. Just keep in mind that there's a few things you should do when you do that. There's going to be, in volume 1, there's a prose story by Greg Rucka called Random Encounters in the Batman Chronicles number 15 part. Skip that one, because that actually takes place in No Man's Land, during No Man's Land. Because if you just read that, it seems like there's something missing. So for whatever reason, they published that early or whatever. And then when you get to the Road to No Man's Land Volume 2, don't read the final issue in there, because that's kind of just a summary of No Man's Land. And you want to read No Man's Land, don't read the summary of No Man's Land. So, but that is Cataclysm and Aftershock. So, tell me what you guys thought, starting with Wolfie.
I thought it was great. I need to go back and read it now more in depth and detail based on some of the things that you have already said that sparked interest. Really good. Really good, like, cliffhanger to this section, I suppose, is how probably the comic book audience read it. And then anticipation of No Man's Land. So I'm super excited about No Man's Land. That was cool.
Yeah, excited too. Andrew, what did you think?
Yeah, very cool. Very, how can I put it? Intense. Just super intense.
Yeah, it is really intense.
There's probably not any humor in this series at all, huh? Like, none.
Yes.
It just no room for
Nolan humor.
Not even Nolan. There's nobody being like, "I didn't sign up for this."
Yeah.
What kind of a cataclysm is this? Is this a cataclysm?
Is that Nolan
he
humor?
said it.
I don't know.
Don't sit in that chair. No chairs on my set.
A beautiful singing voice.
Release Tenet into theaters.
Yes.
I demand it. Forget
If
the
they don't
pandemic.
release my goddamn movie soon enough, I'm going to fucking kill everybody I fucking know.
Check out the origin of how that became Chris Nolan's voice in our Dark Knight Rises Part 3 deep dive. The Dark Knight Rises versus comics. But yeah, that's Cataclysm / Aftershock, and I'm glad we did a separate episode on that because I originally was planning to do that in conjunction with No Man's Land, but it already took us this long to cover this stuff that I think it's best to leave that for its own thing. So yeah, this continues our sort of 2020-esque Batman series that will conclude with No Man's Land. So
Sounds good, sonny boy.
On the nose, topical.
yes,
Get yourself a snack. Get down. With your bad self.
So we get little glimmers of hope in No Man's Land coming up. Then
Don't spoil
No Man's
it.
Land is about how to get hope. Yeah, No Man's Land is how to, because you basically you took a hopeless situation, you made it even more hopeless at the end of
You get an
Cataclysm
empty
and
bag,
Aftershock.
You
And
head
No
over
Man's
to the
Land
Hope
is like-
Market.
No Man's Land is basically how do you keep fighting when everything that you fought for seems to be gone. So that is it's a very important story. I've not only read the comics, but I've also I first read it as a novelization by Alan Grant, and then one of the great Batman novels is
oh shit,
Batman No Man's Land by Greg Rucka, which is I got here.
Where are all the
So hold on.
pictures?
Yep. There are no pictures. But it's basically, as you can see, the cover has Gotham City over the water, but it looks like the bat insignia.
hell yeah.
It's pretty good.
So that's pretty good. Yeah, no, it's written well because Greg Rucka was a crime novelist before he started writing for Batman. So
That's
he
cool.
was the
So
natural
there's not
selection
even
for this.
There's not even a couple of drawings in there then, huh?
I believe there's a map. There's a map of Gotham, I think.
Just
All
a
right,
bunch
I'll
of
read it.
words
I'll
there,
read it.
huh?
Yeah, I'll read it. Most
Just
of the
words.
I'll read it. Yeah. All right.
There's a map of Gotham.
Comics. Yeah.
Does it have like a soundtrack whenever you open it at all?
Who
No,
plays
but there is an
Batman?
audiobook version of it. There's an
Who
audiobook
plays
version.
Batman in this one? Is it Val Kilmer? It's the 90s, right?
It's George Clooney at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, 99 or so is when they started the No Man's Land stuff, and we'll dive into that when I finish rereading all 1,600 pages of it. So we'll see.
He does this work for you, Internet. He
Yes.
does it for you.
Interwebs for all you noobs like us.
All right, that's it, everybody. You got any custom shout-outs there, Ben?
Yes, thank you to the Bat Feed, also known on Instagram as Batman Stop Motion. We'll include his channel in the description on the YouTube version of this since he included us in his, but he has some great stuff there exploring his fandom as Batman and exploring different parts of the Batman universe on camera, like what we're doing here. So the other person to shout out to is we'll also put Cookie Noms' channel in there as well, because why not? She's a big supporter, and she did an amazing job on the Mask of the Phantasm cookie that you can find on her Instagram.
I'm
at,
surprised.
Cookie
I
Noms.
want to talk about this for just a second.
Yeah.
Kooky Noms, I know you're listening. I'd like to think you still are anyway. So the resolution of what is that? Like, she's got like damn near like HD looking cookies. You seen this shit? People take a look at this. It's like
got her motion tracking
920
settings on.
by 1080 lines, like 1080p cookies. Like you can do all that shit with fucking what is it called? Dressing? What's that shit called? You put on the cookie? Shows how much I know.
Frosting.
Frosting. Icing.
Icing,
Yes, with
yeah.
icing. You can do this amount of detail with fucking icing. Are you kidding me?
It's like edible watercolor.
It's insane. I'm surprised. It's
Yeah,
like
she's
exact.
incredible.
Yeah.
You're incredible.
All right, and then other than that, in addition to Kooky Noms, of course, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Balls, Aaron Willett, Ian H, and Dan D. Dan D's a friend from high school, listens to every episode. And also join the Shasta Army. Always, every time we say Shasta Army, that's automatically a thank you to Shasta. So Shasta Army, the Patreon, the most important tier, I would say, is the $5 one where you get the bonus feed episode, but there's other tiers as well. And we have a lot of merch and shit like that if you want it. And we do have new designs on the way as well, but more on that later. Please leave us a review in iTunes. And also, please take out thy phones and use the voice recorder app and record us something. And then we will put that something on the show. And you too can be part of the pod. Just share that voice clip to SuperHousePodcast@gmail.com. And I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. And check out our YouTube if you haven't already. I'm going to be updating that more and more going forward as well. And who else is next?
We got Instagram, Superhero Stuff Pod. Please follow us there, as well as on Twitter at SuperHousePod. Over to Wolfie.
Nice. Hey guys, I'm Wolfie. Come check us out at the Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. Just go ahead and search that and listen to our new podcast, the Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club podcast. We're currently at 6 episodes. We got the RoboCop series started up. RoboCop 2 coming real soon. I took a little vacation.
And we're all in that one.
Yeah, and we're all in that one. So check out our broadcast, our other cast, and that's it for me. Wolfie signing out.
Ben signing off.
Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.